When you have addiction in a family, it pits everyone against everyone. It can really destroy a family, and all sides have a lot of hurt feelings, resentment, frustration. All sides feel controlled and locked into certain roles, and it's very difficult to get out of. Campbell and I have been treating addicted family systems for a very long time now. And the way we've always done that is a little different than the way other people do it. We like to give every person their own, what we call advocate. Sometimes we call it
You
lawyers.
like to call lawyers.
I like to call it lawyers because I always feel like a defense attorney. And the reason we do that is because sometimes the tension, not, let me take that back.
Always.
Most of the time, I want to say always, well, we'll go with most of the time. The tension in families is so high, we can't even put people in the same room and be productive, right? Like we can do that, but one of two things happens. Either everybody comes and plays nice and then because they don't want to argue in front of like the coach or the counselor or whatever. But then they leave feeling like, well, that didn't do any good. Or everyone comes in, they say what they need to say. And then everyone leaves feeling even more angry and upset. And they're like, I feel worse than when I came. Why am I paying for this? And so we have developed this system of sort of conquer and divide. And then a lot of times behind the scenes, the counselors, the coaches, or whatever, we do a lot of the negotiating behind the scenes to help mediate some of the tension. It takes a while to be able to bring everybody in the same room. And it's so bad, Campbell, that sometimes, not in a long time, we'll argue with each other.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because,
Sometimes the lunch table is less than pleasant because everyone's so entrenched in representing their person and convincing each other that no, your person's wrong. No, your person's wrong.
Right. We've gotten better about it, but it has happened. We have locked horns.
Oh yeah. Bree hates it.
No, she really hates it. It mostly happens, I think, with couples more than parents and kids. I think that's not. It just seems like that. Yeah.
And I think to add to what you said from the parent side of the thing or the grandparents is not only do we have to sort of mitigate all those feelings, but we also have to, I spend a lot of time working between head and heart and figuring out if I'm talking to parents, there's usually one parent that just can't do quite what maybe I would recommend would be the best thing to do.
Right.
And so I have to sort of say, okay, well, we're going to just work with the softer heart and see if that's where we end up, that's where we end up. But we have to work with that. And so that's another thing that people is they have to recognize what their relationship with themselves and their ability to hold a boundary, have a boundary, or draw a hard line is.
Right. And you bring up a good point, Campbell, because it's not just the person maybe that's struggling with some kind of substance use disorder pitted against the family member. It's the family members pit against the other family members. Yeah. I mean, it is literally everybody pit against everybody else. Yeah. And it's
pit with themselves.
Right. And from the perspective's point of view, the reason that sometimes in the past, we've got to the point where, we lock horns with each other, arguing it out behind the scenes about, no, your client, no, oh, did your client tell you they did this?
I'm almost always right in the end.
Well, that's why I'm the defense attorney. so anyways, it's because each person believes their side fully. And so as the people who listen to those people, we believe in their side fully, right? And so it's not necessarily a matter of like one side's lying and one side's telling the truth. It's these different perspectives and looking at the same issue through different lenses. Now, occasionally we'll run into it where it's like the story you're hearing and the story I'm hearing. We're like, are we talking about the same family? Like, we're not even on the same book. Like, what? Like,
do they live in the same town?
Are you sure? Like, let's look at we open the file up. Like, you're talking about this one, right? And it's like, what? Like, it's completely not in the same planet. Most of the time, it's not like that. Most of the time, it's the same story, but there's a different lens on it. Yeah. And a different tone, when the story's told and stuff like that. And we have to do a lot of navigating all that and mediating it. And to be honest, everybody's right. And so it's not a matter of us deciding who's right and who's wrong. It's a matter of
how do we fix it,
right?
Or how do we move on, right?
How do we get, okay, this is how you see it, this is how I see it, now what, right? So I want to talk a little bit, before we get into how to fix it, let's look at the different perspectives, because I've got some things that I very commonly hear, like not always, but almost always, I've got some things from the person with the addictions perspective about how they see things. And Campbell will know exactly how the family member feels on the other side of that. All right. You ready? I got a list of them here.
Okay.
So I did my notes.
I did not.
It's all right. You don't need notes. You got this. So here's something that the person that I see often says. Oh my gosh, they freak out if I have one beer. They freak out if I'm gone 5 minutes. It's like just one little thing, and they're just acting like I've done murdered somebody. They just acted like I've just like done the worst thing ever. What the heck? They're such overreactors. That's how my people feel. How your people
And
feel.
my people feel like, oh my God, he's drinking again. It's the 9th night in a row. Will it be 1 beer? Will it be 12 beers? I don't know. But all I know is I have to bathe 3 children. I have to get everybody to bed. And he's going to be sitting out here defending what he's doing.
Right. So in the addicted person's mind, it's like the family member's freaking out over 1 beer, which in the addicted person's mind, it really takes away the credibility of what the family member is trying to say, because it's like, clearly I'm not even buzzed and they're freaking out. And so in their mind, then they sort of put this label on you of overreactor. You're always anxious. You're always worried about everything. You're critical. So they just sort of put this lens on you, and it's really hard to get them to quit seeing the family member through that lens.
And in truth, they are putting the lens because it's like Chinese water torture. And so they can't not see through the lens because it's just yet again, here we go. And that even happens when we had this on the live call yesterday. Somebody was like, my husband is saying he's having sober October, whatever. And, how should we respond? We were like, not whatever.
Whatever.
But that's exactly what she's thinking is, we've done this before. We've never been successful. I don't want to jack up myself. I don't want to get excited. I don't want to encourage you. I don't want to be your cheerleader, whatever. We know that by the 10th, you're going to be just hammered.
Right.
And so it's hard to get people to say, but you can't, you have to act as if he's going to be successful.
Right.
Or you're going to be the problem.
Right. So it's like, not only is it a jump to conclusions if they have 1 beer, it's like even if they say they're not going to drink, there's a jump to conclusions. And that's why from the addict's perspective, it's like, it doesn't matter what I do. They're always negative.
Right. Exactly. And I kind of don't blame the addict.
Both people are right. That's the problem. You're both right.
Yeah.
And right. Because the family member, it's like, okay, if 5 out of 10 times when you have 1 beer, you have 20 beers, and then something terrible happens 3 of those times, then of course, when you have 1, they're going to be on panic mode. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why they feel that way, right? That's training over a long period of time. But it's also makes sense from the other person's perspective of, oh my gosh, they're freaking out after I have just 1.
And I'm telling her I'm going to be sober. Why is she not jumping up and down?
Right. And so it does get to the point where the family member, they get to the point, I think, Campbell, where it's like they're afraid to get their hopes up.
Oh, totally.
Let themselves, right? Like they won't even let it get hopeful.
Yeah. They can't stand the letdown, and and also I think if they get used to sort of living in this, it's going to keep going, then they don't have to figure out what to say or do. They just don't ever believe it.
It's this sort of false belief. If I don't get my hopes up, I won't be disappointed, but that's not really accurate. No, you're still disappointed. Not. You're just chronically disappointed now.
You're just not happy ever.
It's like a mind trick we play. Right. Just don't even get your hopes up. But it's not helpful for you or for them. But I can understand where you come from, because probably you got your hopes up the first 10 times they said that. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard to feel it.
Yeah.
Another one that gets, and it doesn't get said direct. Sometimes people directly say this, but other times they're just sort of indicating it. But basically it's like they feel like their loved one can't appreciate any of their good qualities. All they can see is this one issue, this one little flaw that they have. It's one little character defect, and it's all their family member focuses on, even though they make good money, even though they help with the house, even though they take care of the kids, even though they do everything. It's the only thing the family member can focus on.
Yeah, we hear that a lot, especially with couples. And that's part of what Kim and I do, is sort of help remind the spouse that there's a full circle. There's 360 degrees of this person. And yes, the drinking or whatever's happening is one little part, but there's the other part. So we kind of help to remember, look for that, engage with that, praise that. Now with parents, it's not that easy, because by the time they're coming to us, a lot of these kids are like, the humanity is being taken out of them, and they're not going to school. They're stealing from you. They're never home. They're not.
They're
pleasant.
more in the non-functioning category.
They're completely
further into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Most of the spouses we see are still on the upper end
for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're usually still either working or taking care of house stuff. Like they're still functioning on some level usually.
And that becomes part of the problem, because that's from what you hear is, I call those safety nets. So I have a job, we own 4 cars, we have a lovely home, and the kids are
house. What's your problem?
Right. And so I call those safety nets, and those buoy up adult addicts, because they're like, I don't really have a problem. Versus kids don't have those safety nets because they just don't have them. And so they're much more likely to say,
they've put all that in place before the addiction takes hold. So that carries them away. Whereas when you deal with like young adults, like late teens, early 20s, they never had those things in place. So
right.
Their addiction, it looks like it progresses faster. And I guess maybe in some ways it does, but they just have less, like what you're calling safety nets
their life becomes unmanageable faster because they don't have enough of those safety nets. Exactly.
And a lot of times they don't even have like good adulting skills at all. Like just to pay a bill, like to, go to the DMV and get something to take care of, stuff like that. And so it definitely hits them harder for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing, and I made a video about this, it's going to come out sometime, I think at the end of this month, but with addiction, it looks like really selfish behavior, but a lot of the people that I see that have addiction, they're actually overly people-pleasing people. And so what happens is in their mind, they give, they do everything, they sacrifice everything, and this is their one thing. It's like, this is my one thing that do for me. Like, think about like the moms, right? That you see that, like, it's like, I take care of these 4 kids. I go to the PTA. I do this. I run carpool. Like, I'm constantly, I clean the house. I wash the dishes, and I want to have a glass of wine at night. What is your problem? That's it. And a lot of them are very either A-type or people-pleasing or productive people. And so it's like, this is my one thing that I have for me, and you just want to take it away. What you got to say about that, Campbell? It's my one thing.
I'd have to say, well, is that one thing getting in the way of your other 400 things?
I think the problem is it's not so much that it always gets in the way of the 400 things, but whatever happens when the one thing goes down is so bad that it really kind of does override all the other stuff, right? Like, for example, if you're a great parent, right, and you are a great provider and you coach your son's little league team, all the things, right, but then you are doing cocaine once a month and you're gone MIA for 4 days of the month and everybody's scared. Yes, it kind of does. I mean, I hate to say it,
100%.
It kind of does override all your good deeds. You know what I mean? It's not
I got nothing. I got no defense on that. It does.
You got enough credit in the bank that, but a lot of times the one bad thing, the acting crazy, the being really intoxicated, the throwing things, the yelling things, it's so intense at the time. It's so bad. It kind of does override everything.
And I think if it happened once, which would not be addiction, then, obviously your spouse or whoever, your parent, would get over that. But it's the once a month or every 3 months or whatever, there's a scene, there's an ordeal, there's a thing that throws it into the addiction category, because when this happens, there are negative consequences.
And those consequences are so big,
they're inescapable. They're undeniable.
Them, right? Like if it's like you're driving with the kids intoxicated, you're flunking out of school, they're giant, right? And I think what happens is from the addicted person's perspective, it's like, okay, I did this bad thing, but there's a tendency to want to isolate. What you want to do is you want to isolate the one bad thing, and then you want to minimize it, and you want to make a lot of rationalization. So even if you can admit, yeah, I did that, it was terrible, what happens is the addicted person doesn't want to look at the whole full big picture. It's not like Campbell said that happened one time.
Right.
Instead it happens twice a month or whatever, it keeps happening.
Well, I think that's what addiction is incredibly successful and really wonderful at, is the rationalization and the validation. There's there's always a reason to use. There's always a reason that it'll be managed. There's always a reason it won't be a problem. And that's how addiction thrives, is that survival part of the brain isn't very smart or kind. So it rationalizes and justifies every decision around the usage.
Right.
Yeah.
And not only that, it really is sort of like the perfect weapon to take down people and families, because the thing that can fix addiction is the family. It is the connection. And so not only does it sort of shift up your thinking and make you rationalize that way, but it pits the family against each other. And that's why it lives. And that's why we come at it from the family perspective, because when the family unites, it pushes the addiction out. It's really, it's the fix. It is the cure. And the way that this works is it alienates everybody. It burns all the bridges. So I like to say it's like a lion getting the zebra by itself, right? It's like running until it's like that one right there and it's got you. That's what it does. It wants to alienate everyone else, because once everyone else is gone, it has full control of you.
Right.
A lot of times, eventually what happens to the people that I see is they kind of develop this secret fantasy of, if they just leave me alone. And it looks like, for people that are married, for spouses, it looks like maybe it'd be better if we just got divorced. And then they sort of develop this almost like escape route in their head that they're planning. And then they can get to the point where they're almost like trying to push the family member out. It's almost like then they're doing whatever they're doing to instigate you to leave, because they secretly want you to leave. Subconsciously, what that is like the addiction just wanting full reign, because the addiction knows the family member is the thing holding the floodgate back.
Yeah. And we see it even with kids, like, even with my own, I was like, these are options to stay here, be in school, be an IOP, be working and paying rent. That's not working for me. And off he goes at 17. And that was the addiction just saying, yeah, let's go. And exit stage left.
Right. And you bring up a good point, Kim, because with the young people, it's a slightly different fantasy. And I'm laughing because it's slightly more ridiculous. Let's just be real. The fantasy is, if they would just get off my butt, but pay my bills and pay my rent and my car payment, I'd be fine.
If they just let me live here and come and go as I please and not have any responsibilities or school responsibilities, then I'd be fine.
And the thinking is, I'm an adult, right? Like, they shouldn't control where I go and what I do. I'm an adult. But
or even if they're not an adult, like some 15, 16-year-olds, they're just entitled. And it doesn't occur to them that those things wouldn't happen, because they should happen because they're so entitled.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So it's a bit more irrational, I think, with some young people. With the older ones we see that are still somewhat functional, it's harder to get them over it, because it is slightly rational. I mean, because it's like, I'll just give them my own apartment, because they got their own money or whatever it is. And so they have this secret out, I call it, like, and even when things start to get better and the family member starts to change, it is really hard for me to get them to let go of this secret fantasy out, because they've usually been like nurturing this thing for years by the time they get to me. And so I'm like, okay, you're complaining, but she's not doing that anymore. She stopped doing that 3 months ago, and you're still holding that against her. And because it's like, in their mind, they got to the point, it's like, well, I don't really even want it to work.
Right.
Right. So there's sort of,
but I think that's also flip side. The flip side of that would be that somebody might actually be cutting back. They might actually be getting a handle on this, or certainly learning something from their usage and going that way. But the family member, sometimes we have a hard time getting them to say, look, this is progress. Like, we're not going on a zip line from A to Z, continue just perfectly. We're going to do that, but we are still going. Right. And they're like, no, it's out of control. I'm like, give it some space for him to get better on his own and figure this out.
It's a jump to conclusion, and both sides do it.
I'm going to because I know I feel vindicated.
And vice versa.
I feel vindicated. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you're sort of instigating that response, because it's that ego part, right? Like, I knew you're going to do that. And you're like setting the person up to fail, or making sure you get that bad response or whatever to kind of validate your own theory. So it's like, even when people are trying to do better, it's hard to get people to let go of this power struggle that they're engaged in.
Well, change in general is difficult for people, because when the one person changes for the worse or for the better, we don't trust it. And so we stand back. We don't give it any accolades. We don't give it any credit. We don't express gratitude. We don't acknowledge it. And then the other person we just went away.
No, we're here. I see you.
Oh, I just got this weird picture. Hang on a minute.
Okay.
I'm looking at something on the internet. And so the person who's making the change says, screw it. And they go back. And then the other person says, yeah, I didn't think so.
Yeah. The same way you were saying earlier, Campbell, about how, like, if somebody says I'm doing sober October and the family jumps to the conclusion of, yeah, whatever, heard that again. It happens in reverse exactly the same way. Okay. Yeah. They didn't yell this one time, but I know they were thinking it.
That's true.
I'm like, yeah, they probably were. They didn't say it. So what?
It's a progress. It's progress.
They probably were thinking it, but they didn't say it. It's like they don't want to give. It's like either side doesn't want to give the other side a win.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, very difficult. But the thing of it is if you can get, yes, it's a problem, but if you can get the family to see that we are a team and together we're going to figure this out, the faster that happens, the faster the situation gets better.
Yeah. And I've sat in many joint sessions with you and had to say, like, to your client who thinks, of course, I'm like the,
you are.
I'm dude, I'm on your team. Like I know I'm like steering your wife this way, but I'm on your team. I want you to get sober. I want your family to be happy and wonderful again. And they kind of roll their eyes, but later they do give me credit.
They do, but it takes a long, 2 years later.
That's why my office is at the back of the building so that they don't have to look at me. So
here's what I tell my people.
You have to shroud the pictures of me.
I tell them the secret, Campbell. I say, let me tell you something. You're going to notice that your family member's acting better because they're seeing Campbell, and you're going to like it. And you're going to think, finally, and you're going to think you're getting away with it. But let me tell you what's really happening. Campbell is telling them to step back and wait for you to put your own self in the trap. So don't fall for it. Which probably doesn't help them not trust.
That's not working with us. That's working against us. Now we know why nothing is working well. Just Amber. Don't fall for that.
Basically, I'm just telling them, like, don't think that this is a free pass. Because sometimes they're like, oh, finally, she's come to her senses. She's cool with it. I'm like, that's not what's happening here, dude. That's not what's happening.
I can drink all the time in the garage. She loves it.
Right. What's happening is Campbell's like said to stop trying to control it and let it happen. So it's not so much the times when it's like the family member's trying to do better and they're trying to do better. It's more like when they're just like, oh, finally, she's fine with it. And I can do whatever I want. Right.
She's buying beer and leaving it in the refrigerator for me.
I'm like,
I don't need to see you anymore, Amber.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. All right. What's a big thing you hear from your perspective, from the family member's perspective, all the time that maybe the addicted person needs to hear, understand?
The sadness. I think the emotional response from the family member is the most difficult to deal with because I get it and there's really no fix for it. And it's that disenfranchised grief because they don't know who to talk to about, which is why, like our live calls are such a help to people. And this is a help, like, because they can share something and voice it without someone going, oh, that's gross. Like, really? Your child's a heroin addict? I think the sadness, I think the loneliness, and the hopelessness, like, this won't end. He's going to overdose. He's going to die. I'm going to have to leave him. It's really the sadness.
It is. And that kind of reminds me of another thing that happens a lot. And this is the thing that happens once both people are actually in the right direction. It's like the addicted person feels like, are they ever going to get over it? Are they, maybe they've been doing really good for months. And it's like, are they ever going to get over it? Are they going to always hold this over my head? Are they going to constantly bring it up? And that's a problem in the healing process.
Very.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about, are y'all ever going to get over it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us about that. Because we need to hear it.
I think it comes with time. I don't think it's instant. But everyone loves a hero and everyone loves a comeback story. So I think once you really believe it, and it's not really believing it, it's living it. Once you see that limbic brain coming back engaged, and once you sort of see, I don't know, the humanity return to the person, you begin to trust that this is actually going to stick. And once you begin the trust, I find it very easy. It's pretty quick.
Right.
Like, I think the problem is that if it's relapse, relapse. Those are the people I feel the worst for. And luckily I didn't have too much of that in my personal experience. Because then it is hard to get over, because even like I have clients who are like, I know he's been sober for 3 years, but we've gone 4 years before.
It's like you have to surpass your past longest time or something
by a minute.
Yeah.
And so I think the only thing to do is just to look, do we still have limbic engagement? Are they curious, interested, and receptive? Are they bringing it? And look for those things, because those are, once those start to go away, then your distrust can come back.
Mm-hmm.
As long as those things are in place, I'm like, put your trust in it. Nothing is permanent in the whole wide world, right? Life's not permanent. Power's not permanent. We've learned in the last 2 weeks. So I'm like, give it. When it happens, give it.
Right. And I have to tell my people all the time too. I have to say, the thing of it is like, okay, I know you mean it this time, and you know you mean it this time, but you're saying the same thing to them that you said 100 times before when you knew you didn't mean it. And so it's like, you expect them to know that you really mean it this time, even though you're saying the same thing and maybe doing the same things. Whereas I know before you were going through the motions, but this time it's different. But how's your family member supposed to know that? And so we do a lot of talking on our end about how can you let them know that? And there's some ways, because it's not just like, I mean it this time, or I'm going to go to a meeting. It's going to take more than that. It's going to take more.
It's actions, not words.
And vulnerability, and say, hey, I know I've said this 10 times before, and then tell some of the behind the scenes of it, which a lot of times my people are afraid to do because it's scary to get vulnerable, because they're scared to bring it up, because they're like, oh my God, it's going to set them off. And I don't want to deal with that.
What I tell family members, I don't care if it's parents, grandparents, spouses, when you see humility and willingness, that's when you give yourself. As long as you're getting that, because it takes a lot of humility to be vulnerable. It takes a lot of willingness to share. It takes a lot of those things. So those are the things I always focus on when clients are telling me their story. I'm like, you're screwed, because I hear zero humility and willingness right now. Right.
Because those are indicators of recovery, not just I'm clean today. Right. And there's right. Those are indicators there's a spiritual transformation happening. Right. Like
there's a bigger thing than sobriety. Sobriety is one thing. Humility and willingness are, to me, signs that that person is coming back into the picture. That person is showing back up, not just I'm not using.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but even on my end, when I'm talking to people, I can usually see the difference, because there's just a certain way addiction thinks and does. Yeah. And there's another way. And when I see that shift, I'm like, okay, this thing is different that's happening here, right? Like there's a more authenticity there. Yeah. I know you've got a client, Campbell. You've got 1 minute. You got 1 minute to drop the most wisest wisdom of all wisdom on us before you leave. What you got?
I got power. I got power today. I think just trust that this can get better. Not that it will, but that it can. And Amber taught me this years and years and years ago. 100% of the people whose family members, as well as the person struggling with the addiction, 100% of those people who do what is recommended or told to them, stay sober, get sober and stay sober. Yeah. And that to me is like, that's the gift, is just if everybody in the formula will do what professionals are recommending and suggesting, or what their sponsors recommending or suggesting, anyone but them.
Doesn't have to be us, right?
No, yeah, not us, just anyone that's sober. Mm-hmm. If you'll do that, you'll stay sober, and your loved one will stay sober. And from the family, I'm like, I know you don't want to do what I'm telling you to do, but for us to get to the 100% club, this is what we're going to do.
Right.
If you don't want to be at the 100% club, that's fine. I don't live in your house. I can live in 69%. But do you? And they usually are like, no.
And I'm so glad you said it, because you hear all the time, like, they tried that treatment, didn't work. I'm like, okay, but did they do what they're supposed to do? Did the family do what they're supposed to do? Like, I'm like, there's a million ways to do it. All of it works.
To me, that's why the average is people go to treatment 8 times, because they're not, both sides of the formula aren't doing
to come to terms with they have to do the thing that they're not. You have to actually do the thing.
If they already did the thing, they just be the ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. All right, Campbell, go help some more people. I'll hang on for a few more minutes, and I'm going to answer some questions. If you want to, I'll take you off screen so Bree can moderate.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right, thanks for having me.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, everybody. Bree's going to jump in behind the scenes and help us to moderate. We're going to take some questions and concerns. Thank you for everybody who's here hanging out, joining the conversation with us. Some of you are doing a great job already. You're putting the question marks and the cues and the questions in front, which helps Bree. While she's getting settled into her desk, and she can do that for us, I'll remind you there are resources as always in the description. We have a free Facebook group for families where you can interact with other people who are learning the same philosophy as you, coming from the same perspective. We have a coaching group where Campbell and Kim come on every single week and answer questions. It's like this, but it's small and live and private, where you can actually ask questions more in detail about your situation and get feedback from Kim and Campbell. We have all kinds of resources down there. We have free downloadable resources. It's all in there. All right, Bree, I know you're just getting to your desk. We're pushing you to the limit today. Give us some good questions. Here we go. Denise says, what do you do when your spouse is an alcoholic and the only time he will acknowledge that he has a problem is when he has done something really bad? Other than that, he thinks he deserves to get a drink and act a fool and honestly not be a part. How do you get past that and move forward because he does not want to get help? I like this question, Denise. This is what I call a moment of clarity. And it usually does kind of happen after something goes bad. And you'll get a lot of these. It's like this little window of opportunity opens. And what you have to do is you have to capitalize on these windows, because you're right, Denise. It doesn't last very long. It's usually after something happens that they regret. It's like they're seeing the situation. Honestly, they're usually being like, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. Sometimes they'll make promises, but it's at this moment where the windows kind of open. And what you have to do, Denise, is you have to do some behind the scenes, like research and information gathering, so that when you get one of these moments, you have some options, some suggestions, some opportunities. And if you're working on our invisible intervention program, you know about building credibility, so that you have built enough trust so that when you have this moment and you've built the trust and credibility and you've researched some options, now we have the trifecta. Now we have the situation where you can say, have you ever thought about X, Y, or Z? Right when that window's open. And that's when they will take that suggestion, because it's the right suggestion. You've done your research, you've built your credibility, and the moment is here. It's like a fire drill. That's what we teach people in invisible intervention. It's like you're lining up your trust and credibility behind the scenes. You're getting all your pieces together, and then it's like go time. And the crazy thing is, and it's just like, you don't always know when it happens. It's like they could be talking all week long about how you're ridiculous and they don't have a problem. They could be saying all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, Tuesday morning, wakes up and they're like, I'm really sorry. You're right. I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. And the moment's here. And if you're not ready, you don't have your trust built, you don't have your resources ready, you miss your moment. But don't worry, you're going to get another one. And so in that time, in between, that's when you get ready. Susan says, best response for condescending communication. I think the best response, let me tell you, Susan, I cannot think of this guy's name, but he's a lawyer. And he's a real lawyer, not me. He's a real lawyer. And he has a YouTube channel, and he talks about how to respond, like if someone makes a nasty comment to you or passive aggressive. And the advice he gives, and he has so many videos, they're really good. You should check them out. Just type in like lawyer and communication skills or something, it'll come up. But he talks about, hey, just call it out and say, hey, did you mean that to hurt my feelings? So it's like sometimes people make a passive aggressive or condescending comment. It's like we can either say something snarky back or we can ignore it, neither of which are very helpful. But just like literally stop, take a breath and be like, were you trying to hurt my feelings? Super calm. And what you're doing is you're taking that passive aggressive condescending thing and you're pulling it to the top of the surface. And most of the time when you do that, the other person's like squirming because I didn't really expect to sort of be called out like that, which is different than being provoked back. I'm not saying say something nasty back. Say, wow, that's kind of hurtful. Is that the way did you mean that way? And then they're usually like, oh, I didn't mean it that way. And they start backtracking. But check out that lawyer's video. He's got some really great, there's some more to it, but he's got some really great different responses for that. RH says, how do I manage my husband who's been sober from alcohol for 7 months, but is not in any recovery program? His anger is still there. I think One of the things that's happening here, RH, is you're worried, rightfully so. It's like, okay, yeah, he's sober for 7 months. You're kind of doing that thing. I don't know, I'm guessing, projecting here, but you could be doing that thing Campbell's talking about. It's like, okay, he's got 7 months, but he's not going to no meetings. It's not going to last. So you're afraid to get your hopes up. He's, you're maybe stuck in your fear. He's maybe stuck in his anger. Is to figure out what it is. He probably, if he's still angry, he probably feels like he has some kind of problem. And maybe he doesn't feel like he needs to go to recovery meetings, but maybe he feels like he has anxiety. Maybe he feels like he has ADD. Maybe he feels like he has stress. He's got some perspective. Everybody in their life could say, yeah, this is my biggest problem right now. Maybe he thinks it's marriage problem. Maybe he thinks it's a work problem, whatever. There's something he thinks is an issue. And when you've built trust with them and you can say, hey, have you ever thought about X, Y, or Z? And then sometimes you can get people to take a step towards therapy, counseling, a church group, whatever it is you think that they might be open to kind of get them on a little bit more of a recovery path. But use, in addiction, we call it take any open door. What's their open door? What's the thing that they think is the issue that they're willing to address and step through that one? A lot of times people have anger are really anxious. That's just a hint. It's just a guess. But angry people are usually anxious people. Kim says, my loved one quit drinking for 45 days, but slipped back in and quickly accelerated and is now worse than ever, a fifth a day. Any suggestions on how to communicate about this with him? Well, here's the good news, Kim. The good news is you have 45 days, which is long enough time that he probably felt better. Life was probably going better. Things were more manageable. Things were simpler. His mood was better. And honestly, and you've probably heard me say this if you've been around this channel a while, Kim, but if they're going to go back, number one, it is going to go quickly. And number two, I hope it's going to go quickly because it makes it very evident and very clear. If you're going to relapse back, you're going to be back to where you were very quickly and sometimes worse than ever, just like what Kim is saying. And the fact that it is gone so bad so quick is kind of in your favor, Kim, because it makes it obvious what the issue is. If they had slipped back, but they just had to, and then they didn't use for 4 days, and then they had to, and then they didn't use for a week, and oh my gosh, that's when it's really painful because that will go on for 6 months or a year. This is going to be very evident. And so what you do is you damage control this. And I've got some videos. I'm trying to remember if it's the video that came out. Yeah, I think the video that came out on Tuesday. If you go to the channel and you hit videos, they put them in the most recent. It says exactly, the title is exactly what to do if your loved one relapses. Check out that video and it'll give you the more detailed version of how to respond there. Karen says, what is your opinion about paying for my loved one's commissary while incarcerated? This is a good question. The way I make decisions, Karen, about how much to help versus not help is I like to say, help someone as much as they're helping themselves. If your loved one is calling you up and they're still blaming everyone and everything and they're being nasty to you and they're holding you emotionally hostage, then it doesn't make sense, right? It's like, would you help someone on the street that was nasty to you? Probably not, okay? If your loved one is insightful and they're trying to help themselves and they're showing humility and willingness, like what Campbell's talking, if they're taking steps to help themselves and you're taking steps to help them, that's okay. And the reason it's okay is because you're going to feel good about it because you're going to feel like you're helping them. If this person is demanding and threatening or guilting you or manipulating you and making you feel like you have to put money on their commissary, that's a whole different situation. And if you do it, you're going to feel resentful about it. And if you feel resentful about doing it, that's how you know you shouldn't be doing it. That's how you know you're enabling. When you're helping, you feel good about it. So if they're helping themselves and you're helping them, then that's helping. And that's okay. For God's Glory says, if a teen is using alcohol or drugs every other month over the last year, is that considered addiction? This is a really good question. And it's really hard with teens, right? Because we know teens, they rebel, they experiment, and it's like, and they have nasty attitudes sometimes. So it's like, it's hard. It's like, what's within the normal limits and what's out? The way you know something is addiction isn't about what someone does or even how often they do it. It's about how much unmanageability is a recovery word we use, but how much problems is it causing in their life? Is it causing relationship problems? Is it causing financial problems? Is it causing work or school problems? Is it causing, they have boyfriends and girlfriends breaking up with them? Is it causing them trouble at home? It's like, even if it's every other month, but it's like when it happens, you know, they get arrested, they go to jail, their person breaks up with them, like all these bad things happen. They miss their final exam. That's it. That's an indicator that you're looking at addiction. It's like continued use despite the fact that the consequences are really great, and it seems pretty obvious to everyone else that the consequences outweigh the pros. That's when you know you're getting into addiction territory. But super good question. Pat says, how do you get an addict to accept responsibility for their actions? This is a big question, and I'm going to give you an overly simplified answer because we could talk about this for, weeks and weeks. But I think the way you do that is actually to be empathetic with them. When someone's done something wrong and you express empathy, it actually allows the learning part of the brain to kick in. So that's the first part of the formula. The second part of the formula is, whenever possible, let the natural consequences of that fall, right? And natural consequence means the universe imposed consequences, not the you imposed consequences, because those are the ones you impose are considered punishment. Natural consequences are just like the natural, like if they acted like a jerk to their sister and now their sister won't talk to them for a month, that's a natural consequence. It wasn't like if you call the sister up and say don't talk to him for 2 months, then that's a punishment, right? It's whatever naturally happens. You let those parts fall and you express empathy to them, and then they start to learn. And that works whether you're dealing with a 2-year-old, a teenager, an addict, a mom. That's the formula that helps people figure things out. Because when you can express empathy, it lets people's guard down. They don't have to be defensive. They don't have to be angry. They don't have to make excuses and rationalizations and justifications. Like sometimes they'll start doing that at the beginning. And if you're just empathetic, they'll move right on the other side of that. And they'll be like, yeah, but I probably shouldn't have. And then they start to see their part of it. Rachel says, I have one person I confide in about my addicted loved one, and that is his mother. It feels as though I'm doing something wrong because I know he wouldn't like it. Should I continue to confide in her? Ooh, this is a good question. Ooh. Normally, I would tell you no, because I would consider that a his person. It's just really complicated because you're right, Rachel. Like if he finds this out, oh my gosh, she's going to be so mad. And sometimes, a lot of times, I find that of all the crap that goes on between people who have addictions and their families, this sometimes is the unforgivable as far as the addicted person feels. It's like this disloyalty, and it comes from everybody was talking about me and everybody was plotting against me. That can be complicated, but it sounds like it's sort of already down that road. I wouldn't necessarily say to the mom, I'm not going to talk to you about this anymore, because then the mom's going to be like, what the heck? It's just going to be weird. But I would probably start backing out of that a little bit. You don't have to cut it off, but I wouldn't tell her every single thing that happens, because I just feel like somewhere along the line that's going to blow up in your face. On the other hand, Rachel, it is good that, I don't know if this is your mother-in-law, if this is your boyfriend's mother, your friend's mother, whoever this is, but a lot of times the person's mother usually lines against you. So the fact that they believe you is good, and it can work in some ways because you can be on the same team. But try not to do it in like this sort of we're against him kind of way. Cindy says, my 26-year-old daughter has gotten her way pushing parents away and says she's fine, but is living on the streets in Alaska. Should we track her down or leave her alone? She has run from treatment 3 times since the age of 22. Oh my gosh, Cindy, this is so hard because this is your kid who's living on the streets, and of all places in Alaska, which I have to imagine, I don't know, I've not been there, but my guess is it's pretty difficult to live on the streets there, but just because of the weather conditions and things like that. But it's really hard. I don't know that I would say, if you have if you have cell phone contact and you want to reach out and send a text message every now and then, just say, hey, things are good, I'm thinking about you, send a funny meme, have some just conversation. It kind of is a good thing because it can sort of leave the door is open. but the fact that you're saying track her down makes me think you don't have any communication with her. I don't know that I would so much track her down. Do you have the same phone number? Does she know how to get a hold of you if she needed to? Probably, right? Like if she needed you, she probably would. I wouldn't track her down and beg her into something else, especially if she's gone to 3 treatments and that sort of thing, because you're probably going to set yourself up for the same scenario that you probably have already done several times. But if you do have contact with her, you don't have to cut her off emotionally. I just wouldn't try to force the situation. Elaine says, when an alcoholic spouse leaves and gets an apartment but keeps showing up for marriage counseling and says they want the marriage to work but are emotionally withdrawn, what can you do as the spouse? This, Elaine, my guess is that, and this is total guess, I don't know the situation at all. So everything I say on these questions, you guys just know this is my best guess, okay? Is that they, on one hand, they probably do want the marriage to work, but on the other hand, they are living out their fantasy. You know how I said they usually have this fantasy of marriage just get divorced, marriage just get an apartment. And so there's this other part that probably doesn't want it to work, right? And you know how you can be in a relationship and sort of you want out, but you don't want to be the one to do it. I don't know if that's happening, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was happening. Because it's like maybe on one hand he wants it to work, but on the other hand, he wants to be free to do whatever he wants to do. So I would say, is the person still engaging in the addiction? If that is still happening, then even whether or not they want it to work, whether or not it's going to work is probably not great. And it's really hard to get people who are living alone to get a handle on addiction because it's so tempting, because they have to like have so much willpower all the time because there's nothing there to hold the gates back. So it's a tough one. Eliza says, my daughter's dad and sister will be here on Saturday. How shall we approach the addicted daughter all together? Eliza, it sounds like you're trying to do like maybe a sort of like a small version or an impromptu version of like an intervention, which is like intervention like you see on the TV show. If your daughter is using to the point that it is imminently life-threatening, it is out of control, non-functioning, like super dangerous, then do that. You guys can sit down and confront her together. If your daughter is in denial and doesn't feel like that she has an addiction, then I don't necessarily know that approach is what you need to do. And what I mean is like this whole united, like let's all sit down and confront this person. If you're gonna do that kind of intervention, then I would probably like do it officially, like hire an interventionalist. And because when you see it on TV, it looks like we're just going to sit down and express our feelings and the person goes to treatment, but there's a lot more behind the scenes. Okay. If you're dealing with a person that's actually in denial, like they literally do not think they have a problem, then she's in denial. Then I would do more of the behind the scenes stuff. What I would do is instead of confronting her together is I would sort of maybe unite with these other people, have them watch some Amber videos. Maybe you can do the invisible intervention together, but get a united front on how we're going to get this person out of denial before you try to figure out how we're going to confront this person, because it's just going to make this person feel defensive, angry, hurt, upset, like everyone's on against them. There is a time and place to do that, but if they're in denial, it's not usually going to get them out of denial. It's usually just going to make them very defensive. Tristy says, my loved one doesn't last long on his sobriety. He, at almost 2 weeks, had been the same for 8 months now. Stress, anxiety, and arguments lead him to drink. Sometimes he drinks because he feels like it. What do I do? If your loved one, here's more, doesn't agree for inpatient treatment, is only okay with therapy and counseling, has lost his job over his drinking, is trying to get a new job but unsuccessful, and is super stressed because of this. You may be in one of those patterns. Like I was talking to, I can't remember who it was, Tristy, that asked the question earlier about, said their person had all these months and then they relapsed and it's like 5 days in and it was worse than ever. And I said, sometimes that's good, because if your person is having these little lapses every 2 weeks, in their mind, that's some form of managing it. In their mind, it's like, well, I'm just having a cheat day, like it was a diet every 2 weeks. And that's not, I probably shouldn't be doing it, but it probably feels to some degree like it's being managed. And it's really hard to get people out of that. It's almost like I hate to say it, but it's almost like you need this shit to hit the fan again on some level, for them to say, you know what, it just doesn't work for me, because when I drink or when I relapse, it just goes back to square one. If it's only happening a little every 2 weeks, they go further into denial. So if it happens again, don't try to get the brakes on it. Just let it spin for a minute. Because it's going to have to probably get a little worse before it gets better. If they're holding out 2 weeks, like I said, in their mind, it's probably something like, well, I messed up, but it's like a cheat day, instead of seeing that the unmanageability there. All right, guys, we are out of time for today. You guys are excellent. You asked wonderful, wonderful questions. Like I said, there are resources in the description. If you need to talk to Campbell, you need her to lawyer for your side, or Kim, they are awesome. You can find out more about being in their coaching group, or even if you need a private session with them, all that's in the description. I will see you guys next Thursday. We're live every Thursday at 1 Eastern. Bye, everybody. You guys have a great weekend.